Right now, over 100,000 Americans have already been evacuated. And this is just the beginning. The weather pattern that's about to unfold will impact nearly every region of the United States in the next 7 days. But here's what nobody's talking about. This isn't just another storm system. This is a chain reaction that meteorologists rarely see in their entire careers. By minute 5, I'll show you exactly when the most dangerous conditions will hit your area. And at the 3-minute 20-second mark, you'll discover the one day this week when travel becomes nearly impossible across multiple states. But first, you need to understand what's happening right now over the Pacific Ocean. An atmospheric river is forming. Think of it as a fire hose in the sky, 250 to 375 miles wide, carrying moisture equivalent to 7 to 15 times the flow of the Mississippi River. And it's aimed directly at Washington state. Rivers in Washington have already reached their highest levels on record, not in decades, on record. That means the highest water levels since measurements began. And the next wave hits in less than 48 hours. But here's where it gets more complex. What happens in the Pacific Northwest doesn't stay in the Pacific Northwest. The energy from these storms will race eastward at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour in the upper atmosphere. And when it reaches the Great Plains on Wednesday night, something remarkable will happen. Temperature swings, massive temperature swings. We're talking about shifts of 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit in just 72 hours. Areas that are currently 15 to 20 degrees below normal will suddenly spike to 25 degrees above normal. Your snow will vanish in a single afternoon. Here's the timeline you need to know. Write this down. Monday morning, Great Lakes and Northeast wake up to temperatures in the teens and single digits, some areas below zero. Tuesday, the first shift begins. Great Plains climb into the 60 seconds. Wednesday, this is critical. Southern Illinois and Indiana reach the 50 seconds. Cities like Indianapolis break above freezing for the first time in days. But don't get comfortable. Thursday, the warmest day of the week for the Ohio Valley. Temperatures hit the 40 seconds and 50 seconds, snow melts rapidly. But simultaneously, a powerful low-pressure system forms over the northern plains. And this system measures 987 millibars. For context, a typical low-pressure system measures around 1,013 millibars. Hurricane force systems drop to 950 or below. At 987 millibars, this qualifies as a bomb cyclone, an explosively intensifying storm. And here's what that means for you. Wind gusts of 50 to 70 miles per hour across the Dakotas and Nebraska, not sustained winds. Gusts that's strong enough to overturn vehicles, down power lines, and create whiteout conditions even without fresh snowfall. Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa face the same conditions Thursday night into Friday morning. If you have travel plans for Friday, reconsider them now. Airlines will likely cancel hundreds of flights, highways will close. This isn't speculation. This is meteorological certainty. But wait, there's another threat developing simultaneously. And this one surprises even veteran forecasters. Severe weather. In December, in the Ohio Valley, Thursday afternoon, warm air surges north ahead of the storm system. Temperatures climb, dew points rise, and the atmosphere becomes unstable. Damaging winds become possible. Isolated tornadoes cannot be ruled out, particularly in southern Kentucky and Tennessee. December tornadoes are rare but not unprecedented. When they occur, they catch communities off guard because winter preparation doesn't include tornado plans. Check your safe room. Know your shelter location. Have your weather radio ready. Now, remember that reward I promised at 3 minutes 20 seconds? Here it is. Friday, December 20th, is the single worst travel day of the week. Period. The storm system moves into the northeast, bringing wind and rain to major cities. But more importantly, the combination of melting snow, heavy rain, and rapid temperature drops creates black ice conditions across the Midwest overnight Thursday into Friday morning. Black ice forms when temperatures hover right around 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Water on the roadway freezes instantly into a nearly invisible sheet of ice. It's the leading cause of winter traffic accidents. And Friday morning, it will be widespread from Michigan to Pennsylvania. If you absolutely must travel Friday, wait until after 10 a.m. when temperatures rise above freezing and road crews have treated the highways. Or better yet, leave Thursday before the system arrives, or wait until Saturday. Speaking of Saturday, that's when the pattern shifts again. Another burst of Arctic air drops into the upper Midwest. Not as intense as the blast you just experienced, but cold enough to require winter jackets and layer up again. Temperatures drop back to seasonal norms or slightly below. But here's the twist that changes everything for next week. The pattern doesn't stabilize. Instead, the jet stream lifts north again, pushing warm air across the southern two-thirds of the country. By Sunday and into Christmas week, temperatures could surge to 40 degrees above average in some locations. Computer models are showing 70-degree temperatures reaching as far north as Chicago. On Christmas, that would shatter records. Now, take that forecast with caution because we're still several days out and models can shift. But the trend is clear. Unseasonably warm air dominates the pattern. What does this mean for Christmas snow? Unfortunately, not much hope for most of the country. The northern plains and northeast remain the only areas with any chance of winter weather before December 25th. Everyone else is looking at temperatures well above freezing. If you were dreaming of a white Christmas, this isn't the year. At least not yet. Patterns can change rapidly in December, but right now, the forecast strongly favors a mild Christmas for the majority of Americans. Now let's circle back to the Pacific Northwest, because the situation there is escalating by the hour. Between now and Friday, rainfall totals will reach 5 to 10 inches in the higher elevations. Some locations west of Washington could see close to 12 inches. That's a full foot of rain in less than a week. Western Oregon, Western Washington, and Northern California will all receive at least 3 to 7 inches minimum. And this is on top of already saturated ground conditions from previous storms. When soil becomes saturated, it cannot absorb additional water. That water has nowhere to go except into rivers and streams, and that's when flooding becomes catastrophic. River flood warnings are in effect for dozens of rivers across the region. The Snohomish River, the Skagit River, the Stillaguamish River, all approaching or exceeding flood stage, and the worst is still ahead. If you live near a river in Washington or Oregon, you need to have an evacuation plan ready right now. Know your route, have supplies packed, keep your gas tank full, monitor local emergency alerts. This is not the time to wait and see what happens. 100,000 people were evacuated last week. That number could easily double this week. Emergency management officials are preparing for that scenario. You should too. And here's something most forecasts aren't mentioning. The atmospheric river events will continue beyond this week. Computer models show additional systems lined up over the Pacific, ready to march inland over the weekend and into Christmas week. That means the flooding threat doesn't end Friday. It extends through at least December 24th, possibly longer. Rivers need time to recede. They won't get that time if storms keep arriving every 2 to 3 days. This is a prolonged, dangerous situation for the Pacific Northwest, and it's not going away anytime soon. Now, let me tell you about the snow situation, because there's a dramatic story unfolding in the mountains. Montana faces winter storm warnings. The northern Rockies will see heavy snow accumulations Wednesday into Thursday. Some areas could receive 2 to 3 feet. Mountain passes will become impassable. Travel through the Rockies will be extremely dangerous or impossible. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan also faces significant snowfall Thursday into Friday. The combination of heavy snow and high winds creates blizzard conditions. Visibility drops to 0. Roads become invisible under drifting snow. Here's what makes this particularly dangerous: the snow that's already on the ground. When you add new snow on top of existing snow and then blast it with 60-mile-per-hour winds, you create a ground blizzard. Snow doesn't need to be falling for a blizzard to occur. Wind simply picks up snow that's already there and hurls it horizontally. You can't see 5 feet in front of your vehicle. Landmarks disappear. People become disoriented even on familiar roads. Every winter, drivers get stranded in ground blizzards. Some don't survive. If you're in the upper Midwest, Thursday or Friday, stay home if possible. Stock up on supplies Wednesday. Make sure you have flashlights, batteries, non-perishable food, and water in case power goes out. Because with wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour, Power outages are likely. Now, here's an interesting meteorological detail that explains why this pattern is so unusual. Typically, when the jet stream dips south, it brings cold air. When it lifts north, it brings warm air. But right now, we're seeing both simultaneously in different regions. The jet stream has developed deep waves, creating extreme contrasts. While the Pacific Northwest deals with flooding, rain, and the Rockies deal with heavy snow, the Gulf Coast could see temperatures in the 70 seconds and 80 seconds. That's a temperature difference of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit across the country at the same time. These extreme contrasts create energy, and that energy has to go somewhere. It goes into storm systems. Powerful, fast-moving storm systems that produce high winds, heavy precipitation, and rapid weather changes. Wednesday through Friday represents the peak of this active pattern. That's when all the elements come together: the atmospheric river, the bomb cyclone, the temperature extremes, and the severe weather threat. If there's any 72-hour period you want to pay close attention to weather forecasts, it's Wednesday through Friday of this week. Conditions will change rapidly. What's safe in the morning might be dangerous by afternoon. And here's a question nobody's asking, but everyone should be. Why is this happening now? December is typically when storm track shifts south, bringing winter weather to the southern states. But this year, the storm track is locked unusually far north. The jet stream is amplified, meaning the waves are deeper and the contrasts are more extreme. This pattern favors intense storms in the northern tier of the country, while leaving the south relatively quiet but warm. It's the opposite of what many people expect for mid-December. Is this related to climate patterns? Possibly. El Niño and La Niña influence jet stream positioning. Ocean temperatures in the Pacific play a role, but regardless of the cause, we have to deal with the reality of what's happening right now. And what's happening is a week of high-impact weather that will affect travel, power, flooding, and daily life for tens of millions of Americans. Let's talk about what you should do to prepare. First, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, treat this as a serious emergency. Have a go bag ready. Know where you'll evacuate if ordered. Don't try to drive through flooded roads. Turn around, don't drown. That's not just a slogan. It saves lives. Second, if you're in the Midwest or Great Plains, prepare for power outages. Charge your devices. Have alternative heating sources ready. Never use generators indoors or in garages. Carbon monoxide kills quickly and silently. Third, if you have travel plans Thursday or Friday, build in flexibility. Flights will be delayed or canceled. Highways will close. What should take 4 hours could take 10 hours or become impossible. Is your trip worth the risk? Fourth, check on elderly neighbors and relatives. They're most vulnerable during extreme weather events. A quick phone call or visit could save a life. Fifth, have multiple ways to receive weather warnings. Weather radios, phone apps, local TV, NOAA, weather radio. When conditions deteriorate rapidly, you need to know immediately. Now, at the 15-minute mark, I want to give you some good news, because it's not all dangerous weather ahead. The weekend after this storm system passes brings a brief period of calmer conditions for most of the country. Saturday and Sunday see lighter winds, less precipitation, and more stable temperatures. If you need to catch up on outdoor tasks or travel, that's your window. But don't let your guard down completely, because as we head toward Christmas, another pattern shift appears likely, and this one could bring more active weather to the West Coast, which could then spread inland. The forecast models are hinting at additional storm systems developing off the California coast around December 22nd through 24th. If those systems track inland over the Rockies, we could see another round of winter storms for the plains and Midwest right around Christmas. It's too early for specifics, but the pattern suggests continued activity. So while this week is intense, next week might not be quiet either. Here's something else to consider. The rapid temperature swings aren't just inconvenient. They're hard on infrastructure. Roads expand and contract, pipes freeze and thaw. Building materials stress and crack. After several cycles of freeze, thaw, freeze, we often see an increase in water main breaks, road damage, and structural issues. Municipalities across the Midwest and Great Lakes will be dealing with these problems for weeks after the weather itself passes. And there's an economic impact too. Businesses close, deliveries get delayed, workers can't reach their jobs. The ripple effects of a major weather event extend far beyond the immediate storm. But here's what I find most remarkable about this particular pattern. It's demonstrating just how connected our weather systems are. A storm in the Pacific Northwest doesn't just affect the Pacific Northwest. It triggers a chain reaction that impacts weather from Montana to Maine, from Minnesota to Mississippi. Everything in the atmosphere is connected. Energy transfers from one system to another. What happens upstream affects what happens downstream. And right now, we're seeing that play out in real time across the entire continental United States. The low-pressure system that forms Wednesday night over the northern plains, that's energy transferred from the Pacific storm systems. The warm air surging into the Ohio Valley, that's being pulled northward by that same low-pressure system. The severe weather threat Thursday, that's the clash between the warm air and the approaching cold front. It's all one interconnected system, and when you understand those connections, weather forecasts start to make more sense. Now, as we approach minute 20, let me give you the single most important takeaway from this entire forecast. Wednesday night through Friday morning is the critical window. That's when conditions will be most dangerous across the largest area. That's when travel will be most impacted. That's when power outages are most likely. That's when flooding peaks in the Pacific Northwest. Mark those dates, December 18th evening through December 20th morning. If you can avoid being on the roads during that window, do it. If you can reschedule appointments, reschedule them. If you can work from home, work from home. This isn't about being alarmist. This is about being prepared and making smart decisions based on reliable information. And speaking of reliable information, let's address something important. Weather forecasts change. What I'm telling you today is based on the best available data right now, but models update every 6 hours. New information comes in constantly. Conditions can shift. That's why you can't just watch one forecast and assume you're set for the week. You need to check updates daily, especially as we get closer to Wednesday. What's a 70% chance today might become a 90% chance tomorrow, or it might shift to a different day entirely. Stay flexible, stay informed, and trust the most recent forecast, not the one you heard 3 days ago. Here's another question worth asking. How does this week's weather compare to historical events? The atmospheric river impacting the Pacific Northwest ranks among the top 10 such events in recent history, based on moisture content and duration. The bomb cyclone developing Wednesday night will likely rank in the top 20 lowest pressure systems for December in the northern plains. These aren't once-in-a-lifetime events, but they're also not common. They're significant. They're noteworthy. They're the kind of weather events that make people remember December 2024. And for those keeping track of records, several are likely to fall this week. High temperature records in the Great Plains and Midwest on Wednesday and Thursday. Low-pressure records possibly in the northern plains on Thursday. Rainfall records in portions of Washington and Oregon. Weather isn't just about the day-to-day. It's about the extremes. And this week is delivering extremes. Now, as we approach minute 22, I want to tell you about what comes after this system passes. The Christmas week forecast is trending warmer than average for most of the country. That means comfortable temperatures for holiday travel and gatherings. It also means lower heating bills, which is welcome news given recent cold snaps. But for winter sports enthusiasts, it's disappointing. Ski resorts in the Rockies will have good conditions thanks to this week's heavy snow, but resorts in the Midwest and Northeast will struggle with warm temperatures and rain potentially washing away their snowpack. If you have a ski trip planned for late December in the Midwest or New England, you might want to check conditions before you go. Some resorts may have limited terrain open if the warm pattern holds. On the other hand, if you're traveling by road for Christmas, the warm pattern makes for easier driving conditions, fewer weather-related delays, less ice and snow to contend with. From a travel safety perspective, mild is better than extreme. So there's always a trade-off. What's good for some is disappointing for others. That's the nature of weather. Here's something I find fascinating. Despite all the technology we have, despite satellites and supercomputers and atmospheric models, weather forecasting beyond 7 to 10 days remains extremely challenging. We can identify patterns, we can see trends, but specifics like exact temperatures or precipitation amounts, those are much harder. The atmosphere is chaotic. Small changes in initial conditions lead to large changes in outcomes. That's why forecasters use probability instead of certainty. When you hear a forecast say there's a 60% chance of rain, that doesn't mean it will rain 60% of the day. It means that in 10 similar atmospheric setups, 6 of them produced rain and 4 didn't. It's a probability based on historical data and model output. Understanding that helps you use forecasts more effectively. A 60% chance means you should probably have an umbrella, but you're not guaranteed to need it. A 90% chance means you should definitely plan for rain. A 30% chance means it's unlikely but not impossible. Context matters, probabilities matter, and checking multiple sources helps you get a better sense of confidence in the forecast. Now, as we near minute 24, let me set up what's coming in the next update. By Friday evening, we'll have a much clearer picture of the Christmas week pattern. We'll know if those additional storm systems are going to develop off California. We'll know how quickly the warm air spreads across the country. And we'll have updated snowfall totals for the mountains. Most importantly, we'll be tracking whether the pattern remains active or settles into something calmer for the actual Christmas holiday. Because right now, there's uncertainty about December 24th and 25th. Some models show active weather. Others show quiet weather. That divergence means we're at the edge of predictability. And that's exactly the kind of situation where daily updates become crucial. So here's what you should do. Check back Thursday for an updated forecast. By then, we'll have 24 to 36 more hours of data. We'll have observed how Wednesday's systems actually evolved. And we'll be inside that critical 5 to 7 day forecast window where accuracy improves significantly. The story isn't over. This is just chapter 1. Wednesday through Friday is the climax, and next week sets up the sequel. One final thought as we close. Weather impacts everyone, but it doesn't impact everyone equally. The same storm that brings needed moisture to drought areas causes flooding in saturated areas. The same warm temperatures that help heating bills hurt snow-dependent businesses. Weather is neither good nor bad. It simply is. What matters is how we prepare for it and respond to it. And that's why forecasts like this exist. Not to scare you, not to hype, but to give you the information you need to make smart decisions for yourself and your family. This week brings challenging conditions, but with preparation and awareness, you can navigate it safely. Check forecasts daily. Adjust plans as needed. Look out for neighbors. And remember that weather always changes. What's intense today will pass. What's uncomfortable now will improve. Stay safe out there. The next update drops Thursday evening with the latest on Christmas week and what to expect as we close out December. You won't want to miss what's developing for the final week of 2024. Until then, stay weather aware.